There's a silence that only makes sense after someone is gone. It's a soundless echo in the hallway, a chair that stays empty, a laugh you reach for and can't find. I never realized how much of myself was tied to him, how much of my daily strength came from knowing he was just there, breathing the same air as me. If you're listening to this, maybe you know what I mean. Maybe you felt that kind of emptiness, the kind that makes the world look like it lost its color overnight. Losing him was like losing the ground beneath my feet. Suddenly, everything that seemed simple became overwhelming. Meals, bills, the quiet hours of the night. It wasn't just his absence I was mourning. It was the version of me that only existed because of us. Have you ever felt like you lost a part of yourself when someone left? In the beginning, I believed I couldn't survive this pain. I remember staring at the door, half expecting it to open, half hoping this was all just a terrible dream. Days melted together. I wondered if I'd ever laugh again, or if I was doomed to live in this heavy, endless twilight. People would say, "You're strong. You'll get through this." But strength didn't feel like something I had. It felt like something I lost along with him. If you're walking through this valley right now, I want you to know you're not alone. Your feelings, no matter how messy, raw, or confusing, are real. And it's okay to be scared. It's okay to not have answers. Have you given yourself permission to feel? Or are you trying to hold everything inside? The truth is, I depended on him more than I ever admitted, even to myself. Not just for love and company, but for guidance, decisions, even for the little daily rituals that stitch my days together. When he left, it was as if I had to learn how to live from scratch. But in that pain, I discovered something I want to share with you. Surviving isn't just possible, it's the beginning of something new. If you know someone who needs to hear this, someone who's lost, who's aching, who's searching for light in the darkness, please share this message. No one should have to walk this road alone. Stay with me. I promise you, there's hope on the other side. There's a moment after someone dies that nobody prepares you for. It's not the moment you say goodbye, or the funeral with its flowers and faces and endless condolences. It's that quiet when everyone has left and you close the door behind you. Suddenly, grief isn't something shared. It becomes private, heavier, pressing against your chest until breathing feels like a decision. Every room felt different without him. The kitchen, where we once laughed over spilled coffee, became a museum of memories I wasn't ready to visit. The bedroom, our safe haven, turned into a battlefield of insomnia and silent tears. I used to feel safe with him nearby. Now, even my own shadow felt unfamiliar, as if I had become a stranger in my own life. At night, I'd reach for him instinctively, my hand grasping only emptiness. That was when loneliness became real, not a word, but a living, breathing presence in the house. I learned that grief isn't just sadness. It's confusion, anger, longing, guilt, and sometimes even relief, all mixed together. Have you ever noticed how many emotions can live inside a single heart? Mornings were the hardest. I would wake up forgetting, just for a second, that my world had changed forever. Then reality would hit, cold and unkind. Getting out of bed felt like climbing a mountain with no summit in sight. I'd stand at the window and wonder if anyone else could see how broken I was inside. There was this strange silence that followed me everywhere. The house seemed to sigh with every step I took. Even the birds outside sounded different, their songs distant, as if they too were grieving. Sometimes I wanted to scream, just to prove I was still here. Does grief ever make you feel invisible, too? People came by, bringing food and saying all the right things. They meant well, but their words couldn't fill the emptiness. I smiled, nodded, thanked them, but inside I felt like I was slowly disappearing. It's strange how you can be surrounded by people and still feel so completely alone. The days blurred together. Sometimes I forgot what day it was, or if I had eaten breakfast. Time stopped making sense. I'd find myself lost in memories. His laughter, the way he called my name, the plans we made that would never happen. Loss isn't just about someone leaving, it's about the life you imagined vanishing, too. I realized how much I depended on him for the little things. Decisions about bills, fixing the leaky faucet, handling the car, all things he managed without me even noticing. Now, every task was a reminder of how much he did, and how much I'd have to learn alone. Did you ever realize how much your life was intertwined with someone else's? Fear became a constant companion. Fear of the future, of making mistakes, of never feeling whole again. The unknown stretched out before me, dark and endless. I kept asking myself if I would ever feel normal. I wondered if it was possible to build a life from these broken pieces. There were moments when I felt anger, too. Not just at fate, or at him for leaving, but at myself for not being stronger. For not preparing. For every time I took his presence for granted. Sometimes I'd catch myself resenting couples in the street, envying their unspoken comfort. Have you ever felt anger mixed with grief? Some days I would hear his voice in my head, reminding me to breathe, to take it one step at a time. I clung to those echoes, even as they made me ache for him more. I didn't want to let go of his memory, but I also knew I couldn't live in the past forever. The practical challenges came quickly. Paperwork, bank accounts, legal documents, things I'd never thought about before. Each form, each call, each signature felt like a mountain to climb. The world doesn't pause for your grief. It demands answers, deadlines, decisions. I started to question who I was without him. Was I still the same Anna, or was I becoming someone new? My identity felt shaky and uncertain. I missed the version of me that only existed with him by my side. Losing him meant losing a part of myself, and I wasn't sure how to find my way back. Friends and family tried to help, but their lives went on. Mine felt frozen in place. Sometimes I resented their normalcy, their ability to laugh, plan, move forward. It made me feel left behind, as if I was trapped in a story that wouldn't end. I avoided our favorite places, the shops and cafes where we built memories. Even the scent of his cologne could send me spiraling. Grief has a way of turning the ordinary into something sacred, and sometimes unbearable. Every familiar thing became a reminder of what I had lost. I often asked myself if I was grieving the man or the life we shared. Maybe it was both. Maybe it was the future I thought we'd have, the dreams that now belong to a different timeline. The hardest part wasn't just saying goodbye to him, but to the woman I was when he was here. But even in the deepest emptiness, there were moments of clarity. Little flashes of gratitude for what we had, and a growing awareness that somehow I was still standing. I began to wonder if survival could be more than just enduring, if it could become the start of something new. Sometimes, in the middle of the night, I would talk to him, out loud, quietly, just in case he could hear me. I would tell him about my fears, my failures, and my tiny victories. It helped, even if I didn't have answers. Do you ever find yourself reaching out to someone who isn't there? In those dark, silent hours, I learned that emptiness isn't just a void, it's space for something different to begin. The end was real, the pain was raw, but so was the hope that maybe, just maybe, I could find a way to keep living. Getting out of bed each morning felt like a victory, even if I only managed to shuffle to the kitchen. The world around me seemed unchanged, but everything inside me had shifted. Every morning, the same thoughts circled in my head. How do I keep going when I'm still so lost? Life after loss doesn't come with a handbook, and I often wondered if I was doing anything right. At first, I tried to fill the empty spaces with noise, television, radio, anything to drown out the silence. But no matter how loud the world became, my grief was louder. I found myself talking out loud to him as if he were just in another room, waiting for me to finish my thoughts. Was I clinging to the past, or was I just afraid to let go? My friends encouraged me to get out, but simple things like grocery shopping felt impossible. I would freeze in the aisles, overwhelmed by choices we used to make together. I remember standing in front of the coffee shelf, unsure if I should buy his favorite blend. Who was I shopping for now? Little decisions suddenly became mountains to climb. Loneliness grew heavier as the days went by. The phone rang less often, invitations became rare. Some friends disappeared, not out of malice, but because they didn't know what to say. I started to wonder if I was difficult to be around, or if my grief was too much for others. Have you ever felt invisible, even in a crowded room? Family meant well, but their advice sometimes felt distant. They wanted me to be strong, to move on, to find new reasons to smile. I knew they cared, but their words stung. You're still young, they'd say. You'll find someone else. What if I didn't want someone else? What if all I needed was time to heal? I learned to fake smiles for the world. People expect widows to be strong, to wear their pain quietly, to move forward gracefully. But there were days when I barely held it together. Tears would come unexpectedly, in the shower, driving, or in the middle of a conversation. Sometimes, I'd wonder if the world could see my heartbreak, or if I was truly invisible. Bills and paperwork became my daily battles. Each envelope was a reminder that life moves on, with or without my permission. I had to teach myself how to manage things he used to handle. There were days when I wanted to give up, to let everything pile up and forget about the world outside. But something inside me refused to let go. One morning, I forced myself to take a walk. The air was crisp, the sky painfully bright. With every step, I felt both lost and found. The world was the same, but I was not. I realized then that starting over doesn't mean forgetting. It means learning to live with the memories while creating new ones, even if they feel empty at first. I struggled with guilt. Guilt for laughing, for enjoying a meal, for feeling anything other than sadness. It felt like betraying his memory to find even a moment's peace. I wondered if he would be proud of me, or if he would want me to move forward. Could happiness and grief exist together, or was I meant to choose between them? There were times when the loneliness felt like abandonment, not just by him, but by everyone. Old friends stopped calling, and even family drifted away. I started to question my worth. Was I only valuable as part of a couple? Who was I now on my own? Simple routines became anchors. Making the bed, opening the windows, watering the plants. I clung to these rituals, hoping they would help me rebuild my world. Some days they did. Other days, I barely managed to get dressed. I tried to remind myself that healing isn't linear, and that it was okay to move at my own pace. There were small victories I didn't notice at first. The first time I laughed at a silly TV show, or made dinner without crying. These moments were fragile, but they mattered. I began to understand that survival was made of tiny steps, not grand leaps. Sleep was a struggle. Nights felt endless, the bed too big, dreams too painful. I started keeping a journal, writing down my thoughts, my fears, and my hopes. Seeing my words on paper made the pain feel less overwhelming, and it reminded me that I was still here, still alive. The fear of being alone haunted me. Would I always feel this way? Was I destined to be defined by my loss? The questions circled in my mind, never quite settling. I wondered if others felt this lost, or if I was the only one struggling to start over. Some days, the urge to give up was strong. But then I'd remember something he used to say, "You're stronger than you think." I held on to those words, repeating them like a mantra. Maybe he believed in me, even when I couldn't believe in myself. Learning to live alone was terrifying and liberating. I started to see glimpses of the woman I could become, not just as widow, but my own person. The road was uncertain, and fear was always close by, but so was a quiet hope. In moments of doubt, I would ask myself, what do I want now? Who do I wish to be? The answers were never easy, but the questions themselves became a kind of map guiding me through the darkness. Have you ever felt like you're meeting yourself for the first time? Day by day, breath by breath, I began to accept that this was my life now. It was different, and at times unbearably hard, but it was mine. Each small act of courage, each tiny victory, became proof that I could build something new from the ashes of what was lost. I always thought my breaking point would be the end of me. In truth, it became the beginning of something I never expected. One evening, after another day spent just going through the motions, I found myself sitting quietly with a cup of tea, feeling the weight of all my pain and longing. Suddenly, a wave of peace washed over me, as if my heart had finally grown tired of fighting itself. For the first time, I realized I was still here, and maybe that meant I was meant for more. The hardest challenges weren't always the big, dramatic moments. Sometimes, it was the small things that broke me, finding his handwriting in an old notebook, hearing a song we loved, or facing a problem I'd never solved on my own before. Each obstacle felt like a test, asking me, are you ready to keep going? Most days, I wasn't sure of the answer. I had to learn how to ask for help, a skill I never thought I'd need. For so long, I believed that independence meant doing everything alone. Grief taught me the opposite. Sometimes true strength is in admitting you can't do it all. Friends and even strangers offered help, and I learned to accept their kindness, even if it felt uncomfortable at first. Have you ever found it hard to accept support, even when you need it most? Financial matters became a daily puzzle. I had to organize paperwork, set budgets, make decisions I used to avoid. At first, each mistake felt like proof I wasn't cut out for this new life. But over time, I realized mistakes were simply part of learning. Each small step forward was a victory, even if nobody else noticed. Emotional healing was even more complex. Memories would hit me at random moments, sometimes bringing smiles, other times tears. I learned to let the feelings come and go, trusting that even the pain had something to teach me. I found myself asking, what can I learn from this moment, even if it hurts? Slowly, I discovered new parts of myself. I tried things I'd never dared before, driving alone on long trips, signing up for a class, speaking up in meetings. Each experience was a reminder that I was more than just someone's partner. I was a whole person, capable of growth and change. There were setbacks, too. Days when old fears resurfaced, and I felt like I was starting all over again. But with each setback, I grew a little more patient with myself. Healing, I learned, is not a straight line. It's a winding path with unexpected turns and occasional rest stops. One afternoon, I found a letter he had written to me years ago. Reading his words, I felt both grief and gratitude. Grief for all that was lost, gratitude for having loved so deeply. That letter became a symbol of my journey, evidence that love and pain can exist side by side, shaping us into stronger, more compassionate souls. Community became important in ways I never expected. I reached out to other widows online, sharing stories, fears, and tiny triumphs. Their courage inspired me. I realized I wasn't alone. My pain was shared by others who understood exactly what I was feeling. Have you ever found comfort in the stories of strangers who have walked the same path? Unexpected friendships blossomed. Sometimes, help came from the most unlikely places. A kind neighbor, a gentle word from a colleague, a stranger's understanding smile. These small connections reminded me that even in the darkest times, life sends us moments of light if we are open to receiving them. I learned to celebrate the milestones, no matter how small. The first time I fixed something around the house by myself, I actually laughed out loud. It was a tiny triumph, but it felt enormous. With each new skill, my confidence grew, and the world felt a little less intimidating. One challenge that surprised me was facing others' expectations. People wanted me to move on or find closure. But grief has no deadline, and healing doesn't follow anyone else's schedule. I began to speak my truth, gently but firmly, setting boundaries for what I was willing to accept. How do you handle the expectations of others when your heart is still healing? Spiritual questions surfaced, too. I wondered where he was, if he could see me, if my prayers and thoughts reached him. Sometimes I sensed his presence in a sunbeam, a bird's song, or a sudden feeling of calm. I found comfort in believing that love continues, even when someone is gone from sight. As my days found new rhythms, I started teaching other widows what I was learning. Simple things, like how to pay bills, organize papers, or even how to cook for one. Every lesson shared became a step toward healing for both of us. It's a strange, beautiful gift to help others find hope in their own pain. The biggest discovery was within myself, a quiet resilience I never knew existed. I began to believe that, although grief would always be part of me, it didn't have to define me. I could honor his memory by living fully, not by shrinking away from life. If you're listening to this and walking a similar path, I'd love to hear your story. What challenges have you faced? What victories, however small, have you claimed for yourself? Share in the comments. Let's build this community together. You never know who your story might inspire. Looking back, I see that every challenge, every heartbreak, every small success has shaped me. I am not the same person I was, and that's okay. I am learning to embrace change, to trust myself, and to keep moving forward, one uncertain step at a time. I never believed the word redemption would have a place in my story. But slowly, after so many nights filled with tears and mornings heavy with doubt, I realized healing was not just possible, it was happening. It didn't look like a lightning bolt or a sudden miracle. It looked like quiet mornings, the courage to make plans again, and the ability to smile without guilt. Small victories became the building blocks of my new life. The first time I went to a movie alone, I felt both brave and exposed. Cooking for myself no longer felt like a chore, but a gesture of care. Each act of self-love, no matter how small, made me a little stronger. I saw myself not just as a widow, but as a woman learning to live again. Hope grew in unexpected places. Sometimes it was found in a warm cup of coffee on a cold morning, other times in the laughter of a friend who refused to let me disappear into my grief. I learned to trust the process, to let joy return in its own time. Have you noticed how hope can sneak in quietly, even when you think the door is closed? I stopped comparing my healing to anyone else's. My journey was my own, unique, messy and sacred. There were days when I stumbled and days when I soared, but both belonged to me. Giving myself permission to move at my own pace was a gift, one I hope others will offer themselves as well. The fear of forgetting him faded into something softer. His memory became a source of comfort, not pain. I spoke his name, told our stories, and let his spirit live on in my daily life. The love we shared didn't end with his passing. It changed form, shaping the woman I am today. I found myself reaching out more, not only to other widows, but to anyone struggling with loss. I offered a listening ear, shared what I had learned, and discovered that helping others helped me too. Each story exchanged, every tear shared, wove a tapestry of strength between us. For a long time, I thought happiness would never return. But slowly, moments of joy became more frequent. I started to dream again, not just about the past, but about a future where I could thrive. I realized that true healing wasn't about erasing the pain, but learning to carry it with grace. Celebrating milestones became an act of gratitude. Anniversaries, birthdays, and holidays were different, but I found ways to honor them. Sometimes that meant lighting a candle, writing a letter, or simply allowing myself to feel whatever came up. There is no right or wrong way to remember. Learning to love myself was perhaps the hardest lesson. I forgave myself for the times I fell apart, for the mistakes I made, for being human. Compassion, I learned, is a daily practice, one that brings peace, even on the hardest days. The world began to feel open again, full of possibility. I started to travel, meet new people, and take chances I never would have before. Each step into the unknown reminded me that life can still surprise us, even after heartbreak. I realized I was not only surviving, I was truly living. Grief had changed me, but it had not ended me. If anything, it revealed a depth of strength I never knew existed. There is power in enduring, but there is even greater power in choosing to live fully. Today, I teach other widows that independence is not the absence of love, but its continuation. We honor those we've lost by embracing our own lives, by creating new memories, and by sharing our stories. Our journeys are proof that it's possible to rise after falling, to love after loss, and to hope after heartbreak. If you're still in the middle of your storm, I want you to know there is light ahead. It may not come all at once, and it may not look the way you imagined, but it is there. Trust your own pace. Allow yourself to feel everything, and know that healing is not a destination, but a way of moving through the world. Gratitude became my anchor, even for the pain, because it meant I had loved deeply. Even for the loneliness, because it pushed me to discover who I truly am. And especially for the people I met along the way, who showed me that community and connection can heal wounds that feel too deep for words. As I look back, I see a journey of heartbreak and resilience, of fear and courage, of endings and beginnings. I am proud of every step, every tear, and every new hope I allowed into my life. This story, my story, is not just about loss, it's about the life that follows. Now I invite you, from my heart to yours, share your story in the comments. What have you learned from your own journey through grief and healing? How have you discovered hope again? Your words could bring light to someone who needs it today. If this story touched you, please like, share, and subscribe. Together, we can create a space where healing is possible and no one walks this path alone. What does redemption mean to you? Let's keep this conversation alive. Your voice matters, your story matters, and hope is always within reach.